The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said to the Jews, I am the living bread, which has come down from heaven. Anyone who eats this bread will live forever. And the bread that I shall give is my flesh, for the life of the world. Then the Jews started arguing with one another. How can this man give us his flesh to eat? They said. Jesus replied, I tell you most solemnly, if you do not eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you will not have life in you. Anyone who does eat my flesh and drink my blood has eternal life, and I shall raise him up on the last day. For my flesh is real food, and my blood is real drink. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood lives in me, and I live on him. As I, who am sent by the living Father, myself draw life from the Father, so whoever eats me will draw life from me. This is the bread come down from heaven. Not like the bread our ancestors had. They are dead. But anyone who eats this bread will live forever. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
From the very beginning of humanity, in the history of man's life, we always find man searching from a higher power. We always find man restless, not only to become better himself, but also to seek connection with a higher power. On the other side, we have also God, our Creator. Since the creation of this beautiful world has made us, especially a special creation, humanity, He always searched, He always looked for connection with His creation, especially with man. And He used all methods, people, experiences of life, tragedies, wars, whatever. God's plan has always been to reach out and speak to His favorite creation. And then one day, He said, the best connection I can have with my humanity, with my creation, is to send my own Son. And around 2,000 years ago, He sent His Son here amongst us. That was the greatest moment of history. That was the moment of our faith. That was the moment when we came really in touch with God. And we received God personally because He became man. He showed us how to live. He stayed with us. He was crucified, died on the cross, but rose from it. But before leaving this earth, Jesus said, I am going to remain with you. If you eat my bread and my blood, you will never die. Beautiful dialogue that we had just heard. The beautiful words, poetic words from John's Gospel. I am the bread of life. We sang it too at the start of the Mass. I am the bread of life. And Jesus, through this Eucharist, gave us a unique connection with us. There is no other faith in the world. There have been many religions, and there are still many religions in the world. Most of them valid, if they are searching to find God. All valid, and we should respect them. But no religion, except our faith, believes that God has become man. This is unique of our faith. And this is what makes us particular. And this is what makes us closest to God. We are part of God. We are divine through this Eucharist. And there is no other religion. In fact, Jesus himself was crucified because he claimed that he was the Son of God, that he was God. The Jews themselves could not accept this. It was a blasphemy for them. And they crucified him. But we truly believe that Christ is God, and Christ has remained with us here in the Eucharist. If we believe, we receive it. The problem with us, especially we practicing Catholics who come to church so often, the problem very often is that we take this great gift for granted. We take it for granted, and we come to church and we receive the Holy Eucharist, and we almost behave as, so what? No. It's not so what. This is a great gift that we are receiving from God. We are receiving Him personally, Himself, His true self in the Eucharist. It's not so what. It's a great gift that we should always be grateful and be respectful and look forward to it. I try to do my best, even to celebrate, even we priests. We have to say 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 masses a day. And so it's very easy for us to take it for granted. We say, okay, another mass for the people. And so we celebrate it indifferently. That's bad. And I always try to concentrate, even a few moments before each Mass, to remember my first Mass. That was over 67 years ago. But I always remember the great enthusiasm that I had on that day, when I was entrusted to this great miracle, to take part in this great miracle of changing the bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ. And I always remember the great excitement that I had on the day, and the great pietism and devotion I had on that moment. And I try to bring it back every day, as if my daily Mass that I celebrate is like the very first Mass that I celebrated. This used to be said by Bernard Shaw in his famous book, A Diary of a Country Priest. He used to say, this country priest, he said, I celebrate my Mass every day as if it were my first Mass. And we can help ourselves too to go to this Eucharist, when we go for the Eucharist, also to remember with what devotion we received our first Holy Communion. These days we are celebrating, so many children are receiving their Holy Communion, and we admire their innocence, their piety, their religious preparation, how much they look forward to it, what excitement they have for doing their first communion. We remember our first Holy Communion, and try that every communion that we receive on Sunday as if it were the very first one that I received. With this devotion, we need to approach every time we approach the altar for receiving the Holy Eucharist. And then most of all, remember that the Holy Eucharist that we receive on Sunday does not mean anything to us if it doesn't change our life. If our life of faith, when we go out after Mass, has not changed. If we don't feel, if we don't behave as better Christians, if we don't feel the presence of God in our life, if we lack forgiveness, if we keep living in selfishness and not helping others, if we are not ready to forgive when we have been offended, this is the impact that the Eucharist have to do on our daily lives. Because the Eucharist is not only a mystery to believe in, but it is a mystery to live. And so, let's remember of this great gift that God has given us, unique in the world, unique. Let's be grateful to this great gift, and let's live it as much as possible to our possibilities. It doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that we are perfect people. We'll never be on this earth. But we always try to behave, to be as responsible Christians as best as possible, so that the Eucharist will surely make a difference in us, different to those who don't believe in this great gift that God has given us. Let's say this prayer that we have on the screens. Jesus, my friend and companion, you have given us your very being as food for our journey. How often we fail to realize its worth. Nurture my spirit and kindle in me a deep appreciation of the nourishment you offer. Help me embody your presence to all who hunger and thirst. Lead me to them as you lead me home to you. Gratefully I ask, faithfully I believe.